I don't want to keep
Okay.
you too late. And but basically, we're going to talk about the 3 myths around nutrition. And I'm sure they're going to be ones that you've heard, and probably ones that you might even be like, oh, I heard that works, or I've tried it.
Hmm.
Healthy Steps Nutrition is who Delta Life partnered with, and they're keeping it like very basic. So it's kind of focusing on simple habit-based approaches to help you reach your goals, and doing it one step at a time. Because kind of what we're going to go over, the quick fixes might work quick, but in the long run, it's not going to last. And whenever you're kind of trying to do crazy things, you tend to gain weight back. Like 95% of people who don't do it in a sustainable way end up gaining weight back, and even more than what they had originally lost. So just because there's so much information out there in terms of diets and food and even exercise programs, we feel really overwhelmed. So I'm just gonna kind of break everything down. So I'm sure you've heard this before, because I remember hearing this when I was young, and even now I still hear it, but you shouldn't eat past 7 o'clock. So it's always like,
Yeah, I've heard that.
you're always told, like, if you eat late, you're going to gain weight. And like, I kind of tended to believe that for a while. Like, it seemed true. It's like, if you're eating something, it's going to magically have more calories, even if it's something small and it's only like 70 calories, you're going to be like, oh my God, all of a sudden it's 700, and it's, going to make me gain weight. One, this isn't true. So at the end of the day, it's just being in a calorie deficit. So it doesn't matter when you're eating, how late you're eating. What matters at night is sometimes if we're like craving things, we eat like high fat or high sugar foods, and that could disrupt your sleep. So, and that's kind of when you're not getting enough sleep, because those kind of things will disrupt it. You're going to have elevated cortisol and ghrelin levels, which kind of cause you to have cravings throughout the day. And it also lowers the amount of leptin, which is a hormone that helps us feel full. So that's why when we eat late, it's not so much eating late, it's what we're eating late. And that's when you run into trouble. So if you are hungry at night, have a balanced snack, like something with like a healthy carb, a protein. If you're eating pretty balanced throughout the day, your cravings should kind of subside at night. But if they don't, if you have a sweet tooth, it's okay. Have a little piece of dark chocolate. It's just really when you're eating highly processed foods and high in that added sugar and stuff, that's when you're eating it at night, that it's going to disrupt your sleep. So that's kind of the first one I'm breaking down, because again, like right away you said you heard that. And that's
Hmm.
really just an example. So that's an example of a nutrition myth, and how it's like, it's not true. And
Right.
I'm going to talk about the 3 biggest ones that we hear, where they stem from, why they're not true. And the first one is probably one everybody hears, and that it's carbs make you gain weight. So
Yeah,
I'm
I've heard that.
okay. See, and again, like, you have to remember, like, the diet industry in general is a multi-billion-dollar industry, and the ketogenic diet market in particular is predicted to reach a global value of over $15 billion by 2027,
Wow.
which is just in 4 years. So they're gonna keep telling you that carbs make you fat. It's really
Right.
not true, and it's what our body runs at. So like, demonizing carbs isn't a new concept. You kind of probably heard it in other terms. Right now, keto is the big one. And a true keto diet actually isn't even high protein. It's just a high fat, moderate protein diet with very low carbs. But it used to be called Atkins, South Beach. Now it's really keto. So they kind of just keep
Huh.
recycling this. Keto originally was designed in the 20s by a doctor named Minnie Peterman to cure epilepsy. So now I think it's just a catchy name. And it, again, it's just a multi-billion-dollar industry. So people think carbs are bad. Um,
Hmm.
and it's crazy, but if you found, like, they don't want to make it easy for you. Their bottom line is the profit. So, I
Right.
just think carbohydrates are our body's main source of fuel. And I kind of forgot to do my slides since you're not on there. So I'm going to skip ahead on the, or since you're not looking, but so I'm on carbs make you gain weight. But Carbs are
Okay.
our body's main source of fuel, and when we eat them, they get broken down into a simple sugar. So in order to be absorbed, it's got to be in a simple form. When absorption happens, a rise in our blood sugar stimulates the release of insulin. And without insulin, our body can't take up glucose and use it as energy. So when you're eating carbs, our body first uses the sugar in the blood as quick energy. Once our cells have taken in enough energy, our liver takes control to turn the excess sugar into glycogen as an energy source later on. So it's mainly stored in our muscles and our liver. And you do need to remember that there's only so much room in our body to store anything. So anything in excess will be converted into fat. Now, I did say carbs will make you fat, and that's true. The fat stored from carbs is normal and it's essential for everyday function. And, we're not eating every minute of the day, but our bodies require glucose for energy. Like that's what we want to function on. It's not keto. If it was, our bodies would automatically want to go into ketosis. So you just got to kind of remember, it's like any macronutrient. So we have 3: protein, fat, and carbs. Any single one of those consumed in excess are going to be stored as body fat. So it doesn't really matter if it's carbs or if it's protein. The biggest overall thing for fat loss is being in a calorie deficit. So I have I'll just kind of say like the big things about carbs. It's our body's main source of fuel. It keeps protein from being used as energy. It aids in oxidation, which is breakdown of fat. And calories from carbs should be around 30 to 40% of your daily intake. Although, individual needs vary and you can kind of find the right macro split for you, but you want to have the 3 main macros, like I said, protein, fat, and carbs, as balanced as possible. One thing is you want to consume carbs that are lower in sugar and high in fiber. So when you have those healthy carbs, and when I say carbs are good for you, I should say I don't mean like donuts and pastries and that kind of thing.
Right.
I'm really talking about the healthy carbs. So when you're consuming healthy carbs that are high in fiber, that's going to slow that sugar release into your blood. So it really like regulates that fiber. That's why you want to look for healthy carbs. So things like fruits and vegetables, whole grains, that kind of thing. I always tell people shop the perimeter of the store, because anytime you go into the aisles, that's where you're going to run into trouble, because that's all the processed stuff that has like high fat, high sugar. And if you're loading your plate with non-starchy vegetables, again, these are going to be the ones lower in sugar. You're going to be fine. Again, glycogen is your body's main source of fuel. And it's your brain's preferred source of energy. So and again, I know you can't see the slides, so I'll send you this recording. But
you're fine. I take screenshots every once in a while.
Oh, perfect. There you go. So one thing we talk about is the plate method. And this is something we're doing with the nutrition challenge group I'm running right now.
Cool.
And it's really just a way to make sure you're getting all 3 macronutrients in balance. So you want to think half your plate's veggies, a quarter starchy carbs, a quarter protein, and then a little bit of healthy fat on the side. So you want to, instead of restricting your carbs, you don't want to like kind of run on an empty tank. It's kind of best to follow the plate method. And that's a way you're just going to balance your meals in general. And it really should help with cravings too. So kind of going back to that first nutrition myth, it's not bad if you're eating at night, but when you're eating balanced meals throughout the day, that should curb any cravings you have at night where you might be reaching for the foods that are, like I said, going to disrupt your sleep and make things harder in the long run. So it's a really good way to do it. We talk about that. And I'm going to kind of talk about which carbs, like I said, the lower glycemic ones are the ones you're going to go for with more less sugar, not more sugar. So we kind of go by a red star, yellow star, green, and green being like go. It's going to be like the lowest glycemic, where the red is going to have more sugar. So your low glycemic carbs are going to be apples, blueberries, cherries, plums, pineapples, peas, pumpkin, lentils, strawberries, a lot of fruits, beans, edamame, that kind of thing. Your moderate glycemic that are a little bit more starchy, that's going to be like chickpeas, oatmeal, wheat pasta. So that's kind of more your grains in there. And then like your high glycemic is going to be like a very ripe banana. And you always think like when they're turning really brown, how much sweeter they are. It's just because they have so much more sugar in them. Or and things like dates and mango. So those still have micronutrients in them and they still have fiber, but they have a lot more sugar as well. So you kind of want to go from the green star and then filling, like I said, half your plates with veggies and then a little bit more moderate quarter of your plate with the starchier carbs. But it's kind of nice. You always want to incorporate carbs into with whole foods. So that's where your main source of carbs should come from. So I say if it's made in a plant, don't eat it. If it comes from a plant, you're all good. And I think we all know that deep down. So it's kind of like we want that like quick fix and we want to think there's a secret when really it is just like, you know, being mindful of what we eat and really sticking to whole foods. The least processed it is, the better. Again, you do want to prioritize the lower glycemic foods. And the best time to eat those moderate and higher glycemic carbs are more after your workouts, when your body's ready to replenish those glycogen stores. So again, you can have those things, they're not bad for you, but that's a better time to eat them because once you're done with your workout, yeah, you want to get that protein in, but that's also, like I said, a really good time to get the starchier carbs in because you're just replenishing that glycogen that you use. And especially with our workouts, they are a little bit more high intense. So it's just kind of something to keep in mind. I'm not saying if you do like a easy yoga class, kind of a different story. So rule of thumb with like harder workouts or more intense workouts, that's a really good time to eat them. So I'll go into our second myth, which is training fasted is better. And I know intermittent fasting is a really big thing right now. This is more specifically related to training fasted. Intermittent fasting, I see pros and cons with it just because it could help you deal with cravings, but it could also be a really big trigger for binge eating too. If you're working out like early in the morning, so I'm kind of going over this before we talk about training fasted, but if you're working out really early and then say you're doing like a 5:30 or 6:15 class, and then you're not eating until you're like, say 11 to 7 window, your body's basically starving that whole time. So that's when you're going to tend to lose muscle and just have like lower energy. Again, it could be a useful tool, but it doesn't really mesh well with like the kind of workouts we do at Delta. So, and then I'm going to kind of roll into the training fasted is better, but I do get a lot of questions lately just about intermittent fasting in general. Have you ever heard that training or doing cardio fasted would like help you burn more fat?
No, I have not heard of that, but I have heard of intermittent fasting.
Okay.
But
And
I
I mean, they
personally
are
couldn't do
different.
it.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
They're a little bit different. Like I said, intermittent fasting is where you're just eating in a certain window. Like a lot of people will do like an 8-hour window, or they'll do even like a 5-2 split where they're eat normal 5 days and fast for 2. There's like a lot of different ways. This one is more specifically, people think like if they work out on an empty stomach that they're going to burn more fat. And that really like started with like bodybuilders and stuff. So it was kind of a big thing with like fitness influencers in that community. And a lot of these people don't have like any backgrounds, you know, they just look really good. So they tell people like, oh, I don't eat and I worked out, you know, fasted. So then everybody like jumps on that bandwagon. But, you know, when you're overnight, your body is fasting. And when you're waking up in the morning, your energy sources are depleted and your body has no choice but to rely on fat for energy. But you're going to have less energy overall. So when you train fasted, there's more of a decline in your performance. Now, it is a little bit different. Some people with like, if they're getting up at 5 a.m., maybe you're not hungry then. I understand that completely. But then I'm like, okay, you need to get a meal in as soon as you can after that then.
Right.
But because fasted training will lead to fatigue and hunger, but it also kind of like, you know, helps it makes you unfocused. Really high intensity workouts require stored energy for good performance. And if there's no food to replenish that, you're not going to have like your best workout. It's kind of basically like your fuel tank is empty and you don't have any more energy to expend. So it doesn't influence weight loss or do anything lasting with your body composition change. It also doesn't compensate for calories like you've eaten, like say you had a big dinner the night before, or you had a cheat meal, and then you're like, okay, well, I'm not going to eat in the morning and I'm going to burn all that off. Unfortunately, it doesn't work like that either. I wish it did. But if you do that too, if you're like working out to like, make up for a bigger meal you had, you're more likely to be hungry later in the day. So again, that could like turn into binging. And it's really easy. Like these cravings are so powerful. And because of like all the processed and packaged food we have access to, it's really hard to fight those cravings. Like eventually all of us give in. And that's okay too, but you don't want to be in that constant craving state. So it's just kind of, again, like balancing it all out. You want to focus on fatigue and hunger, and your energy output. So you want to make sure you're balancing these things out. You need that proper fuel to get your best workouts in there. Their slide I have up now is kind of a study they did looking at the effects of fasted versus non-fasted exercise on calorie intake, subjective hunger, and energy expenditure. And this is a meta-analysis study, which is like a gold standard study, because basically too, you can find any study that will support anything nowadays. You want to make sure it's like really researched, peer reviewed. Meta-analysis study is kind of like the gold standard whenever you kind of hear different things like this. But it was basically the group, they had a couple groups. The group who practiced fasted exercise reduced their daily calorie intake, but they reported higher hunger levels, lower energy expenditures, and they burned less throughout the day compared to the unfasted group. So they burned about 10 calories less per hour being in that fasted state than the group who had that energy before their workout. So it doesn't increase or boost your metabolism to work out on an empty stomach. There's no difference in body fat loss between fasted and unfasted overall. So again, it's really just not buying into like all the crazy myths. When you train, you use your glycogen storage to create energy from carbs. And again, fasted energy or fasted exercise doesn't benefit fat loss. So you kind of do want to try to eat before and after your workouts. And like fueling around your performance. Again, I do give a little bit of leeway. If you're getting up at 5 a.m., you might just not be hungry then, but you do want to try to eat as soon as possible after that too, getting something in your system. So pre-workout snack, a good choice, especially if you're working out a little bit later in the day, might be like apple, protein powder, like veggies with an egg white, something small. It doesn't have to be huge. And then you want to try to consume something about 30 to 60 minutes after your workout, like we said, to get the protein and the carbs in there. The protein helps repair your muscle. The carbs are replenishing your glycogen stores. So after, I always try to pair a protein with more of that like starchy carb, because like I said, that's a really good time to use them. Do you have any questions about these two yet? Just want to make sure.
I just want to make sure I understand the training one is where you don't eat before or after you work out, right?
Yeah, so that's what it wasn't specifically related to intermittent fasting, although that would fall into the category. So say you are like I said, working out early and not eating because your intermittent fasting window is between 11 and 7. So that's where it is going to affect your training performance. But yeah, so even if you're an evening person working out, if you ate at like 12 and you're not going to be working out till like 5:30, same thing. You want to try to get a little something in before your workout. So I used to say like an hour before is good. You don't, it doesn't necessarily have to be like right before, because that sometimes doesn't feel good either, especially when we're doing burpees. But really it's just like balancing it out. And I'm, again, fueling after is really important as well, because again, you want to repair the muscle, you want to replenish the glycogen stores, and you just want to have that energy. The third myth is detox products that magically rid your body of toxins. So have you heard of like the teas and that kind of thing, the juices, juice
Oh yeah.
detoxes? So I'm
Yep.
sure, I was going to say, I'm sure you see marketing for that. Juice teas, those seem to be the big ones right now. And of course, you're seeing like all these like celebrities promoting it. And like I said, like
Oh,
influencers, Instagram. So you might think it's like awesome because they'll say like it removes impurities from your blood and in your liver, and it eliminates toxins in your kidneys. And then they show like the before and after pictures. So kind of going back to remember, this is like $1 billion industry. So of course they're going to tell you this. And even those celebrities, they're getting paid a lot of money to tell you this too. And I guarantee they may be drinking it, but they also have personal trainers and dietitians on staff. So
right.
they're not telling you everything they go through. So this is just as big as like I said, the keto diet industry. There's like the
Yep.
cold pressed juices, the tea, supplement herbs, and it's really big push right now promoting like cleansing and detoxifying. And like these juice cleanse, like those kind of thing on average, they could be like $60 to $200 just for like a 3-day thing. Like if you're buying these packages. So in the long
Oh
run,
my.
it's just a scam because again, you know, you can't, you could lose weight in a few days by it, but you're going to lose like mostly water weight, and it's not a sustainable thing. So again, you want to think about
Right.
the sustainable way to do it. And that being said, your body has toxins, but it's also really good at getting rid of them on their own. Like that's what our liver is for. That's what our kidneys are like. It knows what to do.
Right.
So you don't need like a magic pill to do it. Like a lot of these detox teas and stuff contain diuretics. And that's really like
Yeah.
flushing your body. So you're going to notice, like I said, you might lose weight, but you're losing water. So it's not really like you're losing body fat, and you can always fluctuate, within 5 pounds either way. So the human body is very equipped to handle, a lot more than we think, and especially when it comes to detoxifying. So like I said, the liver and the kidneys are the main components to that. But in order to keep those working their best, what you want to focus on, and I'll go back, is to eating like the whole foods and like not
Mm-hmm.
putting the processed stuff, the high fat, high sugar in your diet. Again, I always like shop the perimeter of the store. But when you're giving your body the proper nutrients, like a good balance of the macros, getting micronutrients, vitamins, minerals from a variety of fruits and vegetables, that's going to really keep your liver and your kidneys working the best. So that's like a big one. I keep forgetting to hit the slides since but we're all good.
Sorry.
So going to talk about the liver a little bit. I know I mentioned that, but that's the most important tool when it comes to detoxifying our body. Really eliminating like saturated fat intake, sugar, and even alcohol. Not saying you have to cut them out 100%, but really like enjoying those things in moderation is what's going to help you keeping your body running its best. The other thing to, is just being hydrated. So kidneys, the other one, you want to make sure you're hydrated throughout the day. So kind of good rule of thumb is 60 to 80 ounces of water. And it really depends, but that's kind of like a good place to be. But again, our liver, our kidneys are good at doing their jobs, and they can handle it as long as we're taking care of our overall health. So we're not putting all that crazy stuff in it. We don't need to buy that other crazy stuff that claims to detox it. So kind of out of all these three, I know you said you had heard of, carbs making you fat. You heard of the intermittent fasting, and obviously you heard about like just the different products that are telling you all these magical things. Is it anything like surprising to you, or are you kind of like, yeah, I knew that deep down?
I'm not really surprised. I'm more sad that it's promoted the way it is, though.
I
You know
know.
what I mean?
I
Um,
know. I completely agree. And we're bombarded by it constantly. And I do think, I'm old enough to remember a time where we didn't have social media and we weren't posting everything on there, so I think that's
yeah,
worse, because you're literally just seeing that stuff nonstop. Um, and
right.
you think it's going to work but at the end of the day, these people, I would say for the most part, are just, like I said, they're working out. They probably have the money to have the dietitian, to have somebody make their meals for them. But they're eating the right things, in the end of the day, that's what's really going to have you feeling your best. So whenever you're doing these crazy things, the things we talked about, you're going to tend to fail 95% of the time, and that's not encouraging. But if you are doing things the right way, that's when it might be a little bit slower, but it's going to be sustainable and you're more likely to keep the weight off. So kind of the three things we're focusing on with partnering with Healthy Steps Nutrition is the three principles. Again, they keep everything as simple as possible. But the first one is just adding more whole foods into your diet. It's like I said, if it was made in a plant, no. If it comes from a plant, you should be all good.
Uh-huh.
You really can't get in trouble with like eating vegetables and fruits, but at the end of the day, it is still calorie deficit. I'm not going to say you should eat like 8 avocados a day or that kind of thing.
Right, right.
But like a good balance of it. So I know we kind of talked about the plate method, just kind of to reiterate that. You want to stay away from the processed foods because those have salt, sugar, and fat. And whenever you're eating those three things together, it kind of lights up that pleasure center in your brain. And then you're way more, you want it more. Kind of not to go off because I could go off on this stuff for about an hour besides this topic, but they
Oh, you're
spend
fine.
millions of dollars just researching how to make you addicted to these products too. So the
Yep.
marketing is one thing, but what they're putting into these like processed foods, like you remember like what they taste like because they spend billions of dollars to keep you coming back for more. So really, again, the plate method: half veggies, quarter starchy carbs, quarter protein, lean protein, and then your healthy fats, preferably like healthy plant-based fats. So you want to focus on those lean sources of protein. Like I said, kind of mentioned the liver earlier, you want to avoid saturated fat. So whenever you're going into like, the red meats, or like, you just want to kind of focus on the lean protein with that one. You want to focus on a balance of protein, carbs, and fat. So again, all three macronutrients, whenever you have those in a good balance, it will keep you feeling full longer. And you really do need all three. With the carbs, specifically when you're getting them from veggies and fruits, you're also getting micronutrients and you're getting your fiber. So whenever you hear people, that's another thing with the keto diet that, isn't really high protein, but we'll say it is because that's what they say. You're not getting enough fiber when you're cutting carbs like
Yeah.
that. And fiber is really important too. It helps keep you regular. It's good for your gut health. It's good for the diversity in your microbiome. And that's going to help everything function better too. So the first principle was focusing on those whole foods. Second one is eating a balance of those macronutrients. And the last one is limiting the amount of added sugar you consume. And with that, I just mean, again, not sugar from like fruits or vegetables. It's the sugar that they're adding. So whenever you're looking at the nutrition label, it says like added sugar. You want no more than 6 teaspoons a day for added sugar. And a lot of products have more than that just in one serving. So the average person consumes over 150 pounds of sugar a year, which is about 46 teaspoons a day. This is something, I've talked about on a couple other of the nutrition Zooms, but sugar is super addicting and it's hidden in pretty much every packaged food product. So again, that's kind of going back to why they're so addicting. Couple things I just will go over because I know I talked about detox teas and that kind of thing, but sometimes, you do need supplements, and I'm not saying they're all bad. So you just want to make sure you're choosing a good one. A lot of them aren't regulated by the FDA like drugs are, so they're not like reviewed for safety before they hit the shelves. So kind of good tips, I'll give you a few, is just to kind of even talk to a doctor or registered dietitian to see if you need a supplement. If you're eating a variety of whole foods, you're most likely getting the nutrients your body needs. Not, I like personally will supplement vitamin D in the winter because
Mhm.
the sun's not out, or I'm personally a vegan,
Yeah.
so I have to supplement B12. So there are things that you might not be getting from your diet, but the best thing to do is like if you go in for your physical and get your blood work, you can kind of
Mhm.
see where you might be low. I know B12 is one a lot of people are low in, and the reason is because that's actually from the soil, and our soil is very depleted now, so it's more injected
Yeah.
into a lot of products. But yeah, the second thing is to choose brands that have been trusted by or to been tested by a third party. So they should have like an NSP International or Consumer Lab seal label, and they want to like verify that it contains the ingredients it says, like nothing crazy off of like a 3 a.m. infomercial. Um, you know.
Is that label pretty obvious?
Yeah, and I can send
Okay.
you like what it looks like. It's like an NSP International label, or they have Consumer Lab seal. But I'll send it to you
Okay.
so you know what it looks
Cool.
like.
Thank you.
Basically, if a product is claiming that it will cure something, or if it has money back guarantee, that's kind of when you want to be cautious too. I always like rule of thumb is if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. And
Right.
they do say like purchasing supplements like out of the made outside of the United States, like ordering something from another country, those aren't regulated either. And they could have like toxic ingredients in there. So just being careful of those things. And again, I usually only supplement more things like vitamin D. It would be more
Mhm.
micronutrients your body's low in, or vitamins your body's low in. Um,
Right.
but yeah, so that's kind of everything. And the other thing I was going to go over is like if people don't like veggies, but most people do. I always say like if you're finding a good way to cook them or sneaking them into your smoothies, you should be good. Because I do hear that one a lot. Like I'm like, okay, make sure you're eating half your plate veggies. What do I do if I don't like veggies? And I was like, you just got to find a way. I'm assuming you like them.
I do like that. There's so many now that I just can't imagine. You
Not
know what I
finding
mean?
some that you like. Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
What do they do then?
I mean, I always tell people, and I've had a couple people tell me this. I'm like, you just kind of have to find different ways, even if you're sneaking it in smoothies, try different ways to cook it. Maybe use like cauliflower mixed with potato, like, or as rice, that kind of thing.
Mhm.
There is going to be a way that you find how you like it. So, um, yeah, that I mean, and that's pretty much everything. I was going to kind of open it up to any questions that you have. But those are the three big ones. Um, Carbs don't make you gain weight. It's not better to train on an empty stomach. And again, there's no magic detox thing, but again, they're constantly bombarding you with this stuff. So I understand
Yeah.
where you get like confused about it. But one of the
It's
best things
everywhere.
I know. And how do you feel about like your nutrition overall?
Overall, like my husband and I this year, we really started making more food at home. And one thing that we do a lot is we do substitute cauliflower rice for regular rice, only
Oh,
because my
nice.
husband he likes to keep his A1C within range. It's like 5, which is really good.
Oh,
But
nice.
when he doesn't want to have like a carb, he'll make himself a substitute like zucchini fries or something, and then I'll have my carb. You know what I mean?
Okay. Yeah,
But we
definitely.
really, but we've definitely been trying like something similar to the plate method, like a carb, a vegetable, and then a protein. I love
Oh,
grilled chicken, so we can
good.
have that all the time.
Yeah, no, and that's
But
awesome. And again, that's the way to do it. Like at the end of the day, you do need to be in a calorie deficit to lose weight.
Yeah.
If that's like your goal, but you also don't want it too low either. So if you're just focusing on getting that balance of macronutrients and, you're putting, again, going for the whole foods, you're going to be okay. We are
Right.
doing ongoing nutrition coaching at the studio now. So if you're ever interested in like setting up a goal setting session, you could let me know. And we could just kind of
Okay.
go over things. But yeah, that was pretty much everything. And thanks for coming on because you were the only one to keep me company tonight.
Oh,
That's
I'm
all
surprised.
good. Again, I could go off and talk about this stuff for hours. So
I do have one question though.
yeah, of course.
Are the calorie counting like apps pretty accurate for what when they like give you like a set amount based on like your height and weight?
Um,
Or
they are one you could
okay.
use. There's a website, it's called TDEE.net or TDEEcalculator.net. So that stands for total daily energy expenditure.net.
Okay.
And when you go in there, and I think you've done a body scan before, right?
No, I haven't. What? And
Okay.
I've been wanting to ask about those.
So you get that with your Kickstart or whatever when you did it, or I don't know which program
I
you signed
didn't do
on.
the 6-week kickstart, but I've been
Oh,
wanting to do
okay.
a body scan just to do one to
Yeah, so the
like
body scan
every
is
so
really
often.
helpful because it tells you exactly
Okay.
how much muscle you have and like
Uh-huh.
what your body fat percentage is. So it also gives you a baseline, like your basal metabolic rate, which is like the minimum calories it takes your body to function. Um, and that really depends on like how much
Oh, that's
muscle
neat.
you have. Like the more muscle you have, the more calories you can eat. So when you get your body scan, it will have in the corner BMR. And when I go over this with whoever, I always say, okay, this is how much or how many calories you need just to sustain life. So if you just laid down all day, this is how many calories you would be burning. So what I tell people to do, what I personally do is this website I was telling you about, it's called TDEEcalculator.net.
Mm-hmm.
You plug in your height, your weight, your sex, and then your body fat percentage, and it will give you where you should be depending on your activity level and like what your goals are. So I do find it really accurate. Like when I plug my information in, the BMR that website gives me is literally within 5 calories of what my body scan says. So it does
Okay.
seem to be the most accurate one, but it will give you like a breakdown too. So in terms of like how much you're moving, like if you're, not moving a lot, if you're moderately active.
Mm-hmm.
So you'll see the difference in calories just based on your activity level. And then you can kind of estimate from there. It will give you, and I can go over this with you when you're in the studio, like show it to you. Cause I know like over the
Okay.
computer, it's kind of hard to, but that's a really good one that gives you a really good range of where you should be. And I always tell people about
Okay.
500 less than what you're burning total throughout the day. So say, for example, your resting calorie rate is 1400. You're probably burning closer to at least 2000, 2100. Again, it's going to depend on how active you are. But then you want to, go to your calorie deficit from there. So it's not your
Okay.
basal metabolic rate, it's your total energy. But yeah, I will definitely show that to you because I find that to be a really good baseline. So
Can I ask, like, what does the scan, like, what do you do?
you
The
literally just stand.
I just,
So it's like it's like a scale with arms kind of. So you wipe the
okay.
bottom of your feet and your hands with this like wipe thing. And then you just get on
Mm-hmm.
there and it weighs you. You plug in your information, your age, your sex, and your height. And then you hold your arms
Mm-hmm.
out to the side with your thumbs on these little sensors and it scans you. It
Mm-hmm.
literally takes like 20 seconds. And then you get a
Oh, that's cool.
printout and it breaks down, like I said, how much skeletal muscle mass you have, how much body fat you have, like again, it even like water's included in there. So, but it
That's
is
so
pretty
cool.
accurate. I believe it's like 98.5% accurate. So
Oh, wow.
it's just a good, if it's a good place to start at. So you kind of see where everything's at. So
Yeah. I think I'm gonna sign up for one.
Yeah,
I've
definitely. And I'll definitely
been
sit
so
down and go over it
curious.
with you. And like I said,
Okay.
we can even go over that website too. And if you have any
Okay.
questions, always reach out to me. Like I said, I love working out, the nutrition stuff. I could like go off on this for hours. So
Well, that's good because I like when someone's passionate about what they're teaching. It makes a big difference.
I agree for sure. You have to believe in what you're saying. That,
Right.
again, unlike the people selling you the diet pills.
Yeah, I know.
Well, thanks for coming on, Cassidy. And like I said, we can talk when you're in there. We'll go over the body scan stuff and reach out to me anytime if you have any questions about anything. Do you have any other questions? Because I don't want to cut you off if you do.
Oh, no, I don't think I do. I appreciate all your help.
Oh, yeah, of course. And like I said, if you even think of anything, let me know and I will send you those labels to look for too, just so you know.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so
You're
much.
welcome. Have a good night and I will see you soon.
All right, bye. Thank you.
Bye.